So with the economy essentially going to I've been spending a lot more time trying to figure out how it is that I'm going to increase my income to hopefully then keep up with the rate of inflation. And besides the obvious ways, which is going to be starting a new side hustle, business, or even getting an additional job, I've been looking at ways that I can actually start to make money without me having to be present or actively working towards it. So this is where passive income is going to come in. And for those of you who perhaps don't know what passive income is, it's essentially an income source that requires minimal to no labor and is very easy to maintain as time continues. So for most people, we acquire our money through active income sources, which is going to be things such as your day job, your business, or even your side hustle. And essentially what this means for you is you need to always be physically present, or you need to put a certain amount of time and labor in order to get paid and make that income source. So if you are looking to expand your income potential, but perhaps you've already been stretched for time in terms of your job and your business, this is essentially where passive income can come in to help and actually boost your monthly income without requiring too much time. And to make it easy for you guys to follow along, I'm also going to be using a ranking system that will assess each passive income source based on a few different factors. This way we can then see which ones are best suited to our own personal situations. These main factors will include things such as upfront time, which is essentially the investment of time that you need to put into the income source to get it up and running. We'll also look at the upfront investment, which is essentially the capital that is needed in order to get started. The passive income source as well, which is essentially how much of a reward we're going to make once this income source does start to generate money. And lastly, how hard it is to actually get started and whether it actually requires certain skills to get started. So let's get started with number one, which is going to be royalties income. And this is going to be a way of making money from an asset that you've already put time and effort into. And it will continue to make you money without you ever having to touch it again. And to give some examples of this, I could easily go ahead and create a graphic design, which is then owned by myself forever. And what I could do is take this design and then go put it onto websites such as Redbubble, Society6, and Etsy. And then for the remaining time that they're up on those websites, I will then make royalties income every time someone uses it. So this can be from where someone goes ahead and licenses the design from me, or whether they have it put it onto a piece of merchandise like a t-shirt. So once they are uploaded onto the website, I'll never actually have to do anything again. And royalties income isn't just graphic designs. The same applies to things such as photos and videos, where you can go ahead and upload them to stock websites, and then you will get paid every time someone downloads them. Or if you happen to be good at singing or making instrumental beats, you can easily get paid for every time someone goes ahead and uses your vocals or your beats as essentially a way of licensing them. Or you can even actually go ahead and sign a deal where you would take a certain percentage of the profits for when they use it in a song. Now this is a great place for anyone to go ahead and get started, as it doesn't actually require much capital upfront at all, and it really isn't that hard to get started, as there's no reason you can't just go ahead and go out there and take some photos or videos to go up on some of these stock websites, or even just go ahead and create some simple graphic designs on free editing websites like Canva. The only downside to this option is that it will actually require you to put a bit more time and effort into it as compared to some of the other options. But the income potential here is just as good, or if not better, than some of the other options, as it doesn't actually require any capital up front. Next up we have dividend income, which is essentially where you will invest in a company or stock or fund, and what they will do is actually pay you dividends every so often for investing in their company. This may also be one of the easiest to do and actually get started with. So as an example, if I was to go ahead and open up a trading brokerage account and then load it up with a lump sum of capital, I could then immediately invest that into a stock like Johnson & Johnson, and then I can get a dividend yield of around 2.53% annually for as long as I don't sell that stock and I continue to hold it. And then from the point of investing that money, I won't actually ever have to do anything again unless I want to then further on down the line invest more money, which then in turn will make me more dividends. So this could be a great option if you really do want a hands-off approach where you can then actually delegate more time into other passive income sources or even other active income sources as well. The only downside that I can see with this option is the fact that you will need a crazy amount of capital in order to see any sort of returns within the first few years. So to start with, you may actually find this to be a waste of capital, especially if you're only working with hundreds or thousands of dollars, where this could easily be put into another passive income source that has a greater potential for growth. So if you do decide to go with this option, you will need to have a long-term mindset for it and allow your money to compound over time and essentially just allow it to grow before you start to see any sort of meaningful income source from it. So next we're going to be following this up by looking at capital gains, which is kind of similar to dividend income, but you're going to have to be slightly more active with your investments. And essentially capital gains is where you're going to try and make profit on certain assets. So let's say like stocks, real estate, watches or collectibles, and you will typically look for assets that usually do appreciate in price. And the way we make passive income with this option is by buying assets at a price that we're actually comfortable with and we're pretty sure will go up, and then we essentially hold that asset until we do reach a higher price where we can then obviously sell and then make a profit. So unless you are going to be day trading some of these assets, I would consider it to be fairly passive, and you also need to have a long-term mindset for it and have a good tolerance to risk in the case of a market crash or a downturn. That way you can hold on to the asset until it does reach a higher price where you can then obviously sell for a profit. So depending on where you're at in life and how long you want to be invested with passive income, you may find this option to be much greater than say dividend income because the growth potential is much higher. So if you are starting off with very little capital, it's probably best to choose the higher growth potential income sources, and especially if you do happen to pick a high growth asset that does just boom in price, then you'll be all set. The only downside to this will be the fact that you will need to invest some more time and put in some research behind the stocks and the assets that you choose, and you're also going to have to just generally become familiar with growth investing and the nature of that as well. Now on to real estate, which is where you're going to go ahead and actually buy a property to then go ahead and rent it out to a tenant. And then what you'll do is, see you later. And then from the monthly payments that you get, that's where it will begin to cash flow, and that's where you'll find your profit and the passive income. And I'm sure most of you probably already know how this works, as we're definitely heading into an economy where there's more people renting than they are buying because the prices of houses are going through the roof, and not many people can afford to buy a house or even get a mortgage on a house anymore. But if you can get yourself into a position where you can afford to buy a property in order to rent it out, there's definitely a great cash flowing potential there, as you can easily add a couple of $100s onto your income each month. So while there is great upside to this option and there clearly is financial reward for doing so, there's definitely downsides that come with it, which is things such as property maintenance, all the fees and taxes that come along with buying the property as well. So as an example, if you buy a property and the boiler happens to go, it's not going to be the tenants that have to replace it, it's going to be you, which then obviously comes out of your own pocket. The other thing to this as well is the fact that you may go long periods without any tenants in the property, which then means you have to be the one to pay the mortgages and all of the other bills that come along with that as well, until you do find a tenant that can move in. But saying that, this option is still a great way of making passive income, and especially if you already know the real estate market and you're quite in tune with house prices, and you know when you see a good deal and you can capitalize on that as well. And if you happen to know people within the trade who can obviously then fix, say, a boiler or do windows or plaster walls, then that makes it so much easier because you can get a good deal on any renovation cost that you have to cover as well. It will also help if you have a large sum of capital to put aside, almost essentially as an emergency fund as well, to cover when things don't go right. So if there is ever periods where you're without a tenant, you can cover the mortgage payments and things like that. The other benefit to this as well is not only the rental and the cash flow profits that you'll be making from the property, but if you are going to buy the property outright and eventually pay it off through mortgage payments, you can then actually technically make more passive income through the capital gains that you'll make when you go to sell the property as well. So that's another thing that you can consider. Now moving on to more of the active income sources that will still be fairly passive but will actually require more time and hard work over the capital investment that you have. So for this one, I'll be talking about starting a business which will not only require more time but will actually require certain skills and traits, and also a lot of patience to actually go ahead and endure the process while you get started. The benefit to this option though is that if you don't actually have much capital to hand at the moment but you perhaps have a lot of time, this could be a great place to start, and especially has a huge potential for income in the short term. And of course, me just telling you to go ahead and start a business isn't just as simple as that, as there's so many different options that you could do. So you have Amazon FBA, you have print on demand, you have drop shipping, or you can go ahead and create a marketing agency, or you can even go ahead and create your own branded product with your own store. So really the list does just go on. But if you can figure out a business model that works for you, your time and the skills that you have, I would highly recommend this to most people, as this is definitely a faster way of making more income in the short term. And especially if you can grow the business to a point where you can essentially just outsource and hire all the work that needs to be done, this is where it can become completely passive. So next up, I'm going to be covering the topic of creating some form of educational product, so whether that be an ebook or an online course. And I know that online education and the sale of online courses generally has a bad stigma around it, but honestly, if you have a hobby or a skill that you're really good at and that you're passionate about, there's no reason there won't be people willing to pay to learn from you. And I've personally started doing this myself, as I've actually gone ahead and created my own Skillshare class where I go ahead and show people how they can sell on Etsy, which now actually makes me passive income each month without me having to do much beyond the course creation itself. So this is definitely one benefit to this option, where it won't actually require much capital investment up front at all. All it will require is a little bit of time for you to go ahead and script the course, then film it, edit it, and then go ahead and publish it as well. Or the other option to this is you can go ahead and create an ebook, which will only require you to go ahead and write it up and then create the cover page for the hardback or the ebook cover, and then you can go ahead and publish it on somewhere like Amazon KDP. The only downside to this option is the fact that you will need to somehow actually drive traffic, people or a certain audience towards your educational product in order for them to go ahead and purchase it or make some form of subscription. And the best way of doing this is to either have some form of social media following, or say a YouTube channel where you can obviously then go ahead and promote your educational product to them, or on the flip side to that, you could actually pay to run some ads towards your educational product and then target certain audiences where you know they will purchase it. So beyond the creation of the educational product, you will most likely need to put some time into driving more traffic towards it and then continuing to grow your following. That way you can then continue to see more purchases and subscriptions as your following grows. But all in all, if you don't actually have much capital to start with, but you perhaps have a lot of time on your hands and you're willing to learn new skills, this can definitely be a great potential option, and it definitely has passive income potential as well. So the next one is going to be an obvious one considering you guys are watching this video right now, which is YouTube. So I'm sure most of you probably know this by now, but some YouTube channels actually get paid a certain amount for displaying video ads before, during, and after their videos. So again, using myself as an example, if you guys happen to actually see an ad before watching this video, then that will mean I'll actually be getting a kickback for allowing YouTube to place an ad before my video. And this option can tie in quite well with some of these other passive income sources. So as an example, I can actually use my YouTube channel to actually try direct traffic to my Skillshare class or even an ebook if I was to ever create one. But solely based on my YouTube channel, all I have to do is go ahead and come up with the video ideas and then go ahead and script it out by just putting down some bullet points that I want to talk about. Then all I have to do is go ahead and film it as I am doing now, and then after that edit it all together, export it, and then publish it to YouTube. And then from that point on, I will essentially be getting paid from YouTube every time someone watches a video ad or either clicks on the ad, and this won't actually require any further work from me to do other than when I might have to go ahead and reply to some comments. The only downside to this option is the fact that it may take a lot of time and hard work to really get the ball rolling, and especially before you start to see any sort of regular passive income coming from it. And it might also take some certain skills in order to do YouTube. So one being, you will need to know how to film, you will need to know how to edit and export a video, and another thing is just being comfortable speaking in front of a camera as well. But besides that, it shouldn't actually take up too much capital investment at all, as I mean anyone can really get started with their iPhone, especially with most phones now filming in 4K these days. Now another option that we have that is somewhat linked to YouTube and social media, which is affiliate marketing. And this is essentially where you're going to go ahead and promote a product or some form of subscription, and then every time someone goes ahead and clicks on your affiliate link, you then get a small kickback for that purchase. The great thing about this option is the fact that it won't actually require much capital investment at all and doesn't actually require any certain skills to do it, as it will only take a matter of minutes to go ahead and sign up to an affiliate program like Amazon, where you can go ahead and create your own unique link and then start sending traffic to it. Now of course you're going to need an audience or either a group of people in order to promote your links to, so this is where you're actually going to have to go ahead and find some time to obviously go ahead and grow an audience. Whether that be through YouTube, Instagram, a blog, or any other social media page, you will need to find and grow an audience in order to promote your links. And the best way of seeing a great earning potential and passive income opportunity through this option is by actually delivering your affiliate links to large audiences. And the reason for this is because the percentages you typically get from these affiliate links and the kickbacks is fairly small, so you will need a large audience, because typically only 5 to 10% of that audience will actually click and use your links if you're lucky. So this is definitely another great option, especially if you're already looking to do YouTube or social media as another passive income source. You can essentially just treat this as another bonus on top top of that. Okay, so lastly, we're going to be looking at renting out spaces and assets. And by this, I mean we'll be using apps such as Airbnb and Turo. So let's say you have a spare room in your house, you can go ahead and rent this out on Airbnb for a short term. Or if you have a car where you don't use it for a couple of days, you can go ahead and rent this out on Turo. The benefit to this option is that we can use things already in our possession to go ahead and make further passive income. As an example, I'm fortunate enough to own a car and a motorbike as well. So what I could do is actually lease my car out on Turo for a couple of days, and while I'm without my car, I can then actually just go ahead and get about on my motorbike. This then doesn't cause any inconvenience to me and still allows me to continue my day-to-day life, and this means I'll be able to make some passive income without actually having to do anything at all. There is of course the downside that this will add far more miles onto my car, and you may find that the renters won't actually treat your car as you personally would, but this may be a risk that you're willing to take for the extra income. On the other side to this, you could quite easily just go ahead and rent out a spare room, which doesn't come with as much risk as it would if you were to rent your car out. And this definitely has a great potential if you're already living in a prime location with a good influx of tourists coming to visit for short-term stays, where you can then go ahead and list your room up on Airbnb. So now to wrap everything up and conclude this video, here I've gone ahead and made a chart of each one of the options, which will show you firstly the time that you will need to put into it to get the ball rolling, and then secondly the capital required to actually see any sort of returns or passive income from it, and then the potential earnings and the rewards that could come from this passive income option, and then lastly the difficulty of the income source and whether this will actually require certain skills to go ahead and pursue. And just off this chart alone, I can't really just sit here and tell you guys which one of the options is best and which ones you should pursue, because it really does come down to everyone's own personal situation, where they are in life and how much time they have, how much capital they have, because some people may have a lot of time in their hands but no capital, and vice versa. So it really does come down to your own situation. So please do review these options based on your own circumstances, and I would actually recommend that you go ahead and look into them with far more detail beyond just this video. That way you can make sure that you're making the right move towards your first passive income source. So I think I've covered each one of these options with a general overview, just to give you guys an idea for each one. And please do make sure to let me know down below in the comments if you guys have any suggestions, ideas, or if you have any questions as well. But anyway, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care and bye for now.